Hello everybody! Today I am going to be going over some more examples of factoring quadratics in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c when a does not equal 1. The method that I will be using to factor these quadratics will be a grouping method. I have other videos that show you a guess and check process. If you would like to check out those videos to see if you like that process better, please check out my YouTube channel. Let's get into number 1. So in number 1, we are looking for two numbers so that we can split up that middle term of negative 17m. The way that you figure that out is you take the product of a times c, which in our case is 5 times 6, which is 30, and the sum of b, negative 17. So we're looking for two numbers that have a product of 30 and a sum of negative 17. So I know that 15 times 2 will work, but in order to get a sum of a negative number, you've got to have some negative numbers here. So the only way to get a product that's positive and a sum that's negative is if both terms are negative. So going to rewrite this problem, I have 5m squared, splitting up negative 17m. I have negative 15m minus 2m plus 6. Now, it does not matter which order you put these terms in because the order of addition does not matter. You will get the same answer. So if you wrote negative 2m and negative 15m, you'll get the same answer that I do. So if you want to test that out, go for it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and group my first two terms together, put a plus sign in between, and group the second two terms together. The purpose of this is so that we can group them together and come up with some GCFs of each of the groups. Each group should have a GCF, so the first thing I'm going to do in the first group is take out that GCF, put it out in front. The GCF is 5m, and you're left with m minus 3 inside. Put my plus sign there. Looking for the GCF of the second group. It does have a GCF of 2, but since the first term is negative, we need to take out a negative. Anytime the first term is negative, that means the GCF is negative. So I'm going to take out a negative 2, and you get m minus 3. If you would have taken out a positive 2, from negative 2m plus 6, if you took out a positive 2, you would have gotten negative m plus 3, which is not the same as what I got there. So just be careful with that. What you do then is take out the common parenthesis and write what is left. That second parenthesis is basically just made up of my GCFs. So again, this is your common parenthesis. And this is a combination of your GCFs. So it's a good way to sort of generalize what those two parentheses are and where they come from. So there's your answer. Remember that the order of parentheses does not matter because the order of multiplication does not matter. Let's go to the next example. In the next example, I'm looking for something that has a product of negative 24 and a sum of negative 5. So what's going to work for that is going to be 8 and 3. And again, the product has to be negative and the sum has to be negative. So therefore you want the bigger number to be negative. If you make the 3 be negative and the 8 positive, you'll get a positive 5 when you add them. So then this is my sum that's going to allow me to split up negative 5y. So for this problem here, the first term stays exactly how it is. I'm going to split up the negative 5y into two terms, so negative 8y and 3y. Remember those coefficients come from this side work over here, and then I'm going to bring down the negative 4. Next, I would group the terms together and look for GCFs of the first two of each group. I'm going to skip this step here and show you how you can go directly to this step if you're wanting to do this in less steps. So I know that my two groups are going to be these two numbers and these two terms, right? These two terms and these two terms. So looking at the first two terms, the GCF would be a 2y. If I divided out a 2y from those two terms, I would be left with 3y minus 4. Taking the GCF out of these two terms would be a GCF of 1. I had mentioned in my other video that if you don't have a GCF, the only GCF that you can take out is a GCF of 1. I'll explain why that's important in the next step. So then you're looking for your common parenthesis. That's the 3y minus 4. Take that out and write what is left behind. Now, if you don't take out this GCF of 1, meaning you don't have that there, then you won't have this term here, and then this product would not get you back to here. So it's really important that you make sure if the GCF is a 1 that you take it out so that in the end your final answer is a binomial times a binomial. That also is true if the GCF is negative 1. So if you had something like this, the only GCF of this binomial would be a negative 1. The way you know to take out a negative is if the first term is negative, and that would leave you with something like this once you took it out. So just a little side note there. Okay, so looking at the last example I'm going to do here, this fourth example, I will put the answer, but I'm not going to go through the steps. So you can do that one on your own. Okay, let's look at this last example. In example 3, we are looking for two numbers that have a product of negative 60 and a sum of 11. So for this one, you're going to use 15 and 4. For the product to be negative, one of them has to be negative, and since I want the sum to be positive 11, I want the smaller number to be negative. So writing this out as 4 terms, you'll have 12c squared, splitting up 11c into 15c and negative 4c, and then bring down the negative 5. Again, I'm going to do that grouping part in my head, but thinking about this is one of my groups, this is the other group. So in the first group, the GCF would be a 3c. Taking that out will leave me with 4c plus 5. In the next grouping, the only thing that they really have in common is a 1. But since the first term is negative, I'm going to take out a negative 1. Leaving behind 4c plus 5. Again, if these two parentheses are not the same, you've done something wrong. You're going to take out the common parenthesis, and then your second parenthesis will be made up of your two GCFs, and then this is your final answer. If you want to do number 4 on your own, you can check your answer, and there is your answer to number 4. I did not put the work there, but you can follow the directions of the other problems. So if you like this video, please make sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel to easily find the other videos similar to this, and good luck with your practice.